pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Okay, savvy investors out there, we got an interview today with Alan Moore. He is a real estate investor / jack of all, can do it all. He does some wholesaling on the side. He's a landlord. He flips houses, and a lot of people know him or call him a lot on Section 8 Jazz. So if he's open to leave out his email or phone number right off the tape here, we were talking about Section 8 and all the drama that he has endured, and so have I, especially just recently. I had a tenant move out that was Section 8, and that kind of railroaded me. Just to set some precedents here, he manages 75 units. He's very creative in his financing. He's probably, I would say, done almost everything. I don't know. We'll talk about what you haven't done, but we're going to talk about successes, failures, growth. But he said earlier that he has been full-time since 2004.
Yes.
Cool. And where'd you come from? Like, how did Alan get to Oklahoma City?
I grew up in Maine, joined the Air Force, and landed in Oklahoma City. My last job in the Air Force was a radar technician on the AWACS plane.
Cool. Were you in the air?
No, I was a ground maintenance crew. I flew a few times, but that was just to help, diagnose problems that were only coming up in flight.
Okay. So you were in Maine. How'd you get the real estate bug? How'd you hear about real estate?
Saw an infomercial one night, and
do you know who it was? Was it Carlton?
No, it was the Midget Twins. I think it was Russ Whitney coming to town back in 2003. Funny story. They thought you come into their 3-day event, or the 1-day event led to a 3-day event, and then they said no risk, instant money, cash. They drummed it up pretty good, got my attention. I was basically unemployed at the time.
Was that in Oklahoma City you went to?
Yes.
That? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Basically unemployed at the time. I had just been medically discharged from the Air Force in August of 2003. This was in November. I went to this seminar, and I bought into it a little bit and went back to their 3-day event, and actually got kicked out of their 3-day event.
Why?
Well, they didn't want you networking with other people in the event, which was rather odd.
Like gathering business cards, they
didn't want you gathering business cards. I passed a notebook around saying, okay, well, we got 100 people in the room. Some people want to wholesale, some people want to buy and hold. Well, geez, I got to start my list. So I started passing a notebook around. They caught me doing it. I wasn't trying to hide it. I got kicked out of the meeting for it because I sat out there and I was waiting, and apparently when they went to the next break, they were saying that they ripped up my note with all my phone numbers and emails on it and said that, we don't want you to get calls from people to come over for a spaghetti dinner and be sold Amway.
Yeah, whatever.
So that was their excuse.
So we should call you a rebel, because you always tend to get a little.
Well, I got kicked out of the meeting, and the funny thing is, I joined the real estate club here in Oklahoma City like the next month, because they said that was one of the things to look for. I found one, and at the time we were meeting over at the Best Western over on I-40, and so I started going to it, and I am the only one to this date, with the exception of one other guy that I know, that has ever come to those meetings. Out of 100 people in that room.
That actually did it.
Yeah. So apparently that list wouldn't have done me any good anyway.
So your success already, just straight out the gate, is that you're a rebel, and 2, you just did it.
I didn't take no for an answer. They told me you can't do that, and I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm just, it got my attention. It got me going in the right direction, but I didn't buy their course after I got kicked out.
Of course not. They lost the sale. How many transactions do you think you've done? I mean,
oh my goodness. Well, my first year, I did my first deal in probably March of 2004, and I sold 2 more right back to back.
Like wholesale sell?
Wholesale deals, yeah. I sold about, I'm going to say 20, 25 deals that summer wholesaling.
Of your 2004? Like when you got started? Wow.
When I got started, yeah. I hit the ground hard, and I did a lot of driving for dollars and some direct mail. With that driving for dollars, I hit certain properties, and I met Robert Elder, if I can do a name drop. He was kind of a mentor to me.
Cool.
I met him through a networking company that I had joined, a multi-level thing. But I don't do those anymore, by the way, so don't call me.
You sure you don't want Avocare?
But anyway, no, we... I got him a couple of deals, and he said, "Alan, I like this neighborhood, but find me some in other neighborhoods." It was the North Highlands, so I flipped him a few houses there, and I hit that neighborhood hard, and I ended up actually buying my first rental property there.
So you started out as a wholesaler, and then did a lot of people know you as a wholesaler? Is that what you kind of worked in the beginning?
Well, not a lot of people. I had cash buyers I could count on one hand, Robert Elder being the main one. He was my mentor, and still is. He's
cool.
He's the reason why I didn't give up. Honestly, I could say that because he kind of kicked me in the right direction a few times, him and my wife. But when you're wholesaling, you have to constantly be wholesaling, because as soon as you stop, the leads stop and the money stops. Okay, you can't. If you're just going to wholesale, you can't stop putting out the advertising in the direct mail, because as soon as you do, things are going to dry up real quick.
Yeah.
And I learned that, and I had to get kicked a few times in the right direction. But thanks for my wife to doing that, Vicky. She's helped me out a lot, and we've been through a lot doing this. A lot of it's been trial and error, but we've learned a lot from other investors, and I've earned my stripes as well. So
sure, we'll talk about those as well. So you did 25 deals in the beginning. What motivated you back then? I know your motivation has got to be different now. You have children, or you have one child, right, or two? Two kids now. So my motivation is totally different than when I did it. But how did you do 25 deals? What motivated you? Was it you wanted to be rich? You said you didn't have a job. Was it you're getting your butt kicked because you couldn't provide? What was it that was motivating you?
Well, I didn't want to deliver pizza. So I basically, realized, hey, I made that in March of 2004, I flipped 3 houses, and I made almost $14,000.
In 1 month?
In 1 month. I went from literally on unemployment. I stopped my unemployment. It had ran out. It had been 6 months, and I was literally on unemployment. I went from being a staff sergeant in the Air Force to making $150 a week
on unemployment.
And,
that's cool.
And I just really, they automatically gave that to me, I guess, and I just kind of,
That's awesome.
I never looked back since, and I was like, there's got to be more here. And as soon as I realized it, there was a gold mine sitting there. I just went for it, and then one house came along one day. I got it under contract, and I'm like, I sent it over to Robert, and he offered me, $2,500 to assign it to him, and I got to looking at it and looking at the rent, and decided to keep it. And to this day, that is the best cash flowing property that I have.
And you still have it?
I still have it. It's a 6-bedroom, 1.5 split level house up in the North Highlands. Of course, I got it on a 30-year mortgage because it's one of the first ones that I'd ever bought. Got a funny story about that in a moment, but it's still one of the best cash flowing properties I got. My payment was $470 with taxes, insurance, and principal and interest, and I rented it out for $1,080 a month.
And it's still rolling 11 years later.
Yep.
Or 10. All right. So how about financing? Have you had success, failure? Do you use private money? Do you get bank loans? I know we talked about that over the phone the other day. You were looking for a bank. And did you call the bank I gave you the number for?
I did.
Okay.
I'm going to meet with him soon.
Okay, good. All right. Financing is a big thing I'm writing a book on called Savvy Money. But you mentioned a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah. When I first got started, you're allowed so many mortgages. Then the laws have changed so many times since then. Honestly, we've had a mortgage
for 10 now. It's
crisis.
4. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've still got like 8 or 9.
Cool.
But when I first started out in this, I got loans through Wells Fargo, and I was actually listed as a house husband on the loan paperwork, which was, I was like, wow, okay, I guess I'm a house husband. So
at least you're not a house prostitute.
Well, they had,
I'd rather be a husband than a prostitute.
Well, they had me listed as house husband, and that's because I hadn't been doing it for 2 years. So once I've established that, doing a property management for 2 years, I was able to better qualify with some of the banks. But I use a local investment company here, Kruger, financed literally dozens of houses for me. I've got a bunch of
short-term, long-term?
A little bit of both. A lot of them are long-term. And then, I'd roll some of those over into a bank and have them refinance them and put them on a 15-year AM with a better interest rate and schedule, so better cash flow.
Have you borrowed all kinds of different money? Have you done private money? Have you done all that jazz? Which one do you like?
I've done private money with other individuals using their IRAs, and I've done deals with partners where we'd have a certain split. And honestly, I think the best deals were probably when I just used someone else's IRA to fund it and then flip it. I've had a pretty good luck doing that.
So what do you like to do now? You flipped houses, you hold houses. What's your bread and butter now? Like what gets you up in the morning? Like, hey, I'm gonna go kill it. What turns your buttons? What turns your motor?
What gets me up is a 6 a.m. call from a tenant usually, but I have my phone off. But
all your tenants have your phone number?
Yeah, that was a mistake I made a long time ago.
You haven't read my book.
That was a mistake I made a long time ago, but I'm getting ready to phase that out.
Usually, when you leave this room, you should be phasing that out.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for too long to not know that.
Well, I'm a one-man show, so to speak. My wife does help me with the books on processing rents and stuff like that and QuickBooks, but other than that, she's full-time military. She's active duty still, so
cool.
I'm proud of her being able to stick to it for almost 20 years now.
So, okay, let's get back to the motor. So, what do you like? Do you like to wholesale flip? Do you like to read? I know you're doing some construction.
I love wholesaling.
You like wholesaling? So, is it the marketing aspect? Walk us through someone's thinking about getting real estate. Usually, the first step is wholesaling. What would you recommend them to do? Put out signs? Do direct mail?
I drove for dollars.
You just drove around.
I drove. What I did is, first of all, find some investors. You got to have your exit strategy. You got to know people that are going to buy. So, if someone would come up to me and said, "Hey, Alan, I want to sell you some houses. Where do you want to buy in?" I'd give them a couple of square mile area and say, "Look, this is I want south of 44th between May and Western on the south side or something like that. I love that neighborhood. That's good.
And is that close to your home? Or are you far from there?
I'm in Edmond. I'm on the other side of town, but
okay.
It's 20 miles away. But I like some areas on the northwest side. There's a lot of nice little spots up there. I just bought one off from 50th and Portland last week.
That's a nice area.
In fact, the lady just called me as we were sitting here talking, so she's about ready to move out of her house. I did a kind of an interesting deal on that one.
Yeah, let's talk about how'd you get a hold of her?
Well, she called me off of one of my ads. I followed up behind another investment company that wanted to they wanted to give her a payoff on the house and then list it for sale. I think we can probably figure out who that is. So I don't want to mention her name, but I came in, made her a cash offer, and she took it, hands down.
And it was more than what the payoff, obviously.
More than the payoff.
Do you know what that number was? Like, what was the spread?
She got about $11,000
cash. Cool.
At closing. So,
and have you closed yet?
Yes.
And you still let her in there?
Well, what happens in this situation is it was an elderly lady, single lady, and she was moving into like an assisted living facility that was just for seniors. and she was moving into a one-bedroom kind of a duplex thing up in Edmond, and she needed the money to move. She needed to buy furniture. She needed to put her deposit down, and she's just living on her retirement, which wasn't a lot. So, and she needed, like $3,000 or $4,000 to do all this. So I said, well, here's the deal. You can, we'll go ahead and close. I'll give you 10 days to move after we close. That'll give you access to your money from the closing. And I just signed a document whether I withheld some money from the closing as a deposit. And basically I put on there, I said, this is being withheld as a deposit, as I'm being nice to you. And I actually said this right in the note. And I had it notarized at the closing. And I said, this is not a lease. I'm being nice to you after I bought your house to allow you time to move because you needed the money to move. And that's all that this is.
Cool.
Period. That's it.
What was that? What was that deposit amount? And
I withheld $1,000 from her.
And why not $500 or $500, like $2,000? Or
I could have done more, but I just I figured $1,000 would cover me. I gave her 10 days to stay there, and I said, you leave the house clean, don't do any damages, and then I'll give you $1,000 back. So basically, I lost 10 days. I should have rewrote it to where I could have got something for the rent.
Right.
Withheld back. I should have done that, but I didn't.
But you got a good deal. Are you going to keep
But
this?
I made the deal, and I made it happen. I got a $115,000 house for $75,000.
And you still gave her 11. That's with the 11 in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so basically, it'll rent for $1,200 a month once I get it rented, of course. But it needs literally carpet.
What if I gave you 80? 5,000. And you don't do anything.
No, these are the type of properties I want to move into.
These are the properties you want to hold.
These are the ones I want to hold. I want to get away from the ones that I've got in those neighborhoods. Yes, I am. I've got 15 properties up there, and my goal is to move into more of the medium income range.
75 and above.
75 and above.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that I get a good rent on them, and they're less management, they're less headache, there's less turnover. You get a better quality tenant, they're going to pay you on time. I've got a really nice house up on 115th in May. The rent is $1,150, and they've lived there for almost 4 years now, and I think I've done maybe 3 service calls. They send me the rent on time every month through bill pay. That is golden. And I mean, for all I know, they're manufacturing meth over there, but, because I haven't been to the property. And that's another thing that we could talk about, too, is following up on property and just checking up on them. That's definitely something you have to do, and I haven't implemented anything like that yet. And I know I need to do it, but it's one of those things that I just haven't gotten to. But,
All right, let's move on to when you get a call, how do you know if you're going to hold it, you're going to keep it, or you're going to flip it? Is there a certain margin in there, or is it a time frame? Like, I know that I'm trying to average one house a month on a rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if it was a good deal, I might hold it for 2 months and then start it. How do you know you're going to flip it? Like this deal, I mean, there's a lot of money. There's $75,000 on the table. I know you're trying to build wealth and equity for the future, like we all are.
Mm-hmm.
But why did you flip other ones and not this one? Is it structure? Is it?
It's a school system.
Putnam City.
Yeah, Putnam City 1. It's a great neighborhood. It's a solid house. It's a concrete slab foundation, brick with metal siding, and a good roof, a good central heat and air system, a corner lot in a nice neighborhood. That's about as bulletproof of a house as you're going to get.
Yeah.
When you start buying houses that are older frame houses with raised, floors, they tend to have some issues. The plumbing can freeze up a lot easier. You have warped floors. They just, to me, they seem like they're more maintenance. And that's one of the things that I learned from Robert was buy something that's built after 1960, concrete slab, brick. You got to try to make them as bulletproof as you can for maintenance, because maintenance will kill you.
No,
in this business,
especially since you do it all by yourself. I mean, I know you don't do the physical part of it, but I mean, you're constantly dispatching people, constantly paying people, constantly checking up on them. Does that bother you? You enjoy that part of it?
I don't enjoy it. It's just part of it. I've learned to accept it, I guess. I don't want to do it anymore.
But what motivates? Is this like a long-term gain? I mean, are you guys living off of the income now? I mean,
well, I've been reinvesting a lot of the money back into more houses, and my goal is to well, for the last 3 years I didn't really do anything. We had a little boy, Nathan, and I just kind of sat back and managed the rentals and watched him grow up, and enjoyed that. And it's still awesome to see him. He'll be 4 in November, and but it's just I took a break from buying, and this year my goal is to buy 20 houses.
To hold them or to flip them, or
to hold.
Okay.
And anything else I can do along the way and flip, I'll do it. I've got a couple right now that I'm working on. Right now we've got 2 on the market, one in the Greens and one in Yukon, and then I've got another one coming up near 22nd and Villa. Nice. I've earned my stripes on that bad boy, let me tell you.
All right, let's get a little bit more philosophy, and then we'll go into stripes here in a minute. Okay, so I read this book called Life in Air, and is it better to have 100 houses that are leveraged, or to have 20 paid off? When I make that comment, what does it speak to you? Like, where do you lean? 100 houses leveraged, or 20 paid off?
Well, it's funny because I thought the same thing, and I was kind of getting to that point a minute ago with getting to better quality houses versus the ones I have up in the North Highlands. What I'd like to do is eventually move over to the nicer properties, the nicer ones. I just bought one in Moore last week. I can see the Moore High School from the driveway, and it's a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 2-story house.
Smoking. What'd you get that for?
Got it for $77,900.
Nice. It's worth what? $120, $110?
About $130, and it needs some minor cosmetics, but it'll rent for $1,400
all day.
So I'm loving that one. I'd like to get.
You need 10 of those.
I need 10 of those.
then we're good.
But I want to basically to move up to the nicer houses like that, to where I have better tenants. I can rent out to the military families that are coming in town, and I evenally will do some 1031 exchanges on those lower income houses, and then move them up to nicer, the bigger ones. So.
All right, is there a goal? Like, there was one time I had this dumb goal, which I wanted 100 units, and then I get to 100 units, but I have more headache, more work, less money.
Exactly. And
is there a goal for you? Is there like a number, like cash flow, $20,000 a month? Like Robert Elder, I try to figure out his numbers.
It's insane.
It's like 90,000. He's got 500 units or more, but
he's making some bank.
But he's got 14 staff up there, and
he's got overhead. I have zero.
It's a machine. But so like for you though, obviously you're a father and you want to spend more time with your kids. That's the great thing about real estate, and you want to spend a lot more time, and I do too. Are you looking at it as a cash flow monthly basis, or your long-term asset basis, or
I want long-term monthly cash flow, and like I was saying, you were saying 100 with leveraged or 20 paid off. If I can get the nicer houses, I'd take 20 of them paid off. That'll put me at about a $25,000 to $30,000 a month income,
and you're out.
I'm done.
You're content.
I'm fine with that. I mean, that's
to
some people that sounds like a lot. To some people it doesn't sound like enough. But I can live off $25,000 a month
I can
easy.
live off $6. What are you talking about? So $6 is like living large.
Yeah, I was doing that in the military. But that was my wife and I both working, and we were lucky to make $6. So 25 is obviously pretty awesome.
Now, when you get to those. Do you want them leveraged or not? Do you want them debt free?
Well, I want them debt free, obviously. And the reason why I want to move up to those nicer houses is because they're less maintenance, less headache. I could actually manage them myself from afar if I needed to, or I could turn it over to a property management company here locally. But lately I've found that property management companies aren't always working in your best interest.
No,
sometimes they have properties themselves too. If they get a call for a 3-bedroom, and
they're going to go do their own.
They're going to do their own first,
for sure.
And I've got a problem with that, and to an extent, and that's why I'm still managing my own. Now, the goal would be, like what's Robert doing? Have somebody in your office working for you only.
Yeah.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's what I have going.
And that's what you're doing. I mean, that's how I would do it exactly. I would just say, okay, I'd find
I don't make as much money, but I don't have as much headache.
Right. Well, headache is a big deal in this business because, trust me.
Okay, yes.
You can buy a lot of Motrin, and it's still not going to help.
All right, let's talk about headaches and earning your stripes. Tell us, these listeners out there, I know they're hanging on the edge of the seat. Hopefully they got motivated that you did it, broke, no money, no job, went to a seminar, killing it. Give us some stripes that you're like, oh no, holy it, how did I do that? Tell us one of those. I know, take you a minute to think about it because there's quite a... I know I follow you on Facebook. For some reason, you're very active, you and Brian on there, and you pop up all the time.
You got to be very patient to be a landlord.
True.
I didn't know that when I first started out. My very first house that I bought, it already had somebody in it renting it, and she was on Section 8, and I ended up having to evict her. Very first house, that split level that I told you I had, and I ended up evicting her. It took me 2 months to renovate it and get it re-rented, and I learned some stuff there. But
well, what was it?
Well,
was it not background check? Was it?
Well, I didn't.
Like, what was this damaged?
Well,
how much money did they caused you?
No, when you go in to inspect a property, you always ask the tenant, "Is there anything wrong with it?"
Mm-hmm. When you purchased it,
yeah. Well, I've learned that since. She had problems with a sewer main. I had to replace a new sewer line. The air conditioner was not as good as I had hoped it was. It went out. The furnace actually went out. I had to replace it shortly after I bought it. So I had to put some money into it.
So that's your stripes. So you just didn't do your due diligence as thought.
Yeah, I didn't do due diligence on the property itself. You got to know what you're looking at. I would advise people, if you're going to get in this business yourself, take a home inspection course.
Good tip.
I've done that, and it's helped me tremendously. A lot of people out there know Jack Warner from A to Z Home Inspections. I had the same instructor he did a long time ago, and
how do you get to that class? How do you find it? Is it a text?
You can go online. It's like a 2-week class or a 1-week class.
Was it locally? You went to the classroom?
Yeah. I went to Charles Barnes School of Real Estate, offered it back in 2004, and I took it.
Cool.
So,
and you just took that just so you'd have a better eye?
Better eye for what I'm looking at. And
I mean, I just looked at a property yesterday, and an investor looked at it on Saturday and told me about it, and he made an offer. And I went and looked at it yesterday, and we were talking about it last night, and he said, yeah, there was mold in the duct, and he said all the drain lines were cracked.
Wow.
And when I was running my numbers,
that's expensive.
When I was running my numbers, I didn't account for ductwork, and I for sure didn't see no drain lines because I'm not going to climb under a house. But he was way more thorough than I was, but he was uneducated more than I was. But see, that's the difference between success and failure. You got to know what you're doing.
You got to know what you're
doing. And I like
at.
your tip. I like that. So I'm going to put that in a book somewhere. How much was that class? And it was 2 weeks. And did you meet anybody in there? Was there any other success from that? Has it paid itself over and over again? Can you quantify that?
Yeah. I mean, I think I paid $400 or $500 to take the class at the time, if I recall. And, it was definitely worth it. I learned a lot. I had no knowledge of home construction. I had, I worked on radar systems. I was electronics, and I was an air traffic controller for a short time too. And I had no knowledge of homes, how they're built or what to look for, what signs of things that can go bad, and stuff like that. I didn't have a clue. And so I needed to know this going in to look at a house. And those 20 or 25 properties that I flipped to Robert, he showed me a lot.
He was like, no.
I was like, I want $10,000 for this house. He's like, how about, 5 or something,
Right.
So, but yeah, it was definitely helped me out. And,
okay, that's a good stripe to learn. Let's talk about, you go to court a lot. I've seen you, or I've been in court a lot. You should say you should spend the money on an attorney. I learned that the hard way. But tell us a stripe story. You earned your stripes. It didn't go down as well as you thought it would, and why? Can you think of one of those?
Oh, I got the perfect one.
All right, let's hear it.
I did a lease with an option to buy on a house in Edmond. It was a 1,500 square foot 322 brick house with a pool.
Nice.
Back before we moved to Edmond and had a pool, so my daughter was 10 at the time. Try telling your 10-year-old daughter that we have a house with a pool and she can't swim in it.
Don't tell her.
Well, she found out, but she had to go up there one day with me and saw the pool and wanted to go swimming, but the water was just black as night. It was when I was in the process of buying it. So basically, I got it fixed up. I did a lease with an option to buy with this young couple, and they lasted in that house probably 6 months, and they couldn't balance a checkbook to save their life. They bounced me checks, and I finally ended up trying to get them evicted, and the judge made me pay them back their option money.
What was that number?
$5,000.
And what was his reasoning?
He said, well, technically it should have gone to foreclosure court.
Right,
but
and that would have been $1,200 minimum.
I won't name the judge, but you can look it up.
So let's just rewind. Okay, so folks out there, he had a property, fixed it up, sold it. How much did you sell it for on paper? You had a lease purchase, which is like you have an option. Right. I'm going to sell this property for $100,000, but you got to cash me out. I'm going to hold it for you for a $5,000 option money. So these folks came in. He dolled it up, had it ready to roll. They gave him $5,000, and then he executed a lease. Correct. And this lease is for a length of time. Some people do it 12 months to 5 years. Should be definitely any advice out there less than 5 years. Kind of an essence of a balloon note, but it's not. It's a lease, and within that time frame, 3 to 5 years, please pay me my $100,000, and we wash our hands of it. Well, what happened is that these folks couldn't count to 10 accurately, and they were not paying their rent, and he's like, I can't let you live there for free. So he just had tried to exercise the lease that he had. So he had the $5,000 option document with the $5,000. It was separate, and I guarantee these tenants scream bloody murder. We own the home, la da 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 da, and you're standing in front of the court, and the judge said, pay back their $5,000.
He said, judgment for plaintiff. However, the deposit needs to be returned minus any damages and any rents that are owed. So
you got your month's rent.
I got my rent basically out of the money that I already had, and I had to go over there and inspect the house and then run everything past their attorney. They had some attorney that worked for them for free. I don't know how they managed that, but friend of the family, I guess.
And then you itemize everything.
Long story short, I ended up having to pay them back about $3,500, and I mean it was just a big headache, and they made they didn't take care of the pool. That was the biggest thing.
Which you had to get all that back to snuff.
Yeah, and so then at that point I just fixed it up and sold it on the market. I had taken
on retail.
Yeah, I had actually taken over the property subject to financing, so I got it for about $87,000. And
what was the option for? How much was the total sale price? Not your second retail. What did you sell it to them for? The couple that defaulted.
$125.
Okay, it's a good margin. And then what did you retail it for?
I think it was like $125, $130.
Cool. That's a great house in Edmond with a pool.
Yeah, it was in Copper Creek. It was a nice neighborhood.
And you did it on a subject to, which is another creative thing. How'd you learn about subject tos?
William Tingle.
Locally guy?
No, he's from Georgia. He came around, did the seminar thing a long time ago. I got his course, and he's pretty good at it. There's some other guys out there. William Bronchek offers a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I like him.
He's a good guy. And
so you like courses? You read them, you actually do them, and you paid the money, and then you started doing subject twos. How many subject twos have you done?
I've only done a handful. I don't see them that often. You got to be careful on some of them. You can't do
bankruptcy.
Yeah, there's a lot of
insurance claim.
There's a lot of ways it can go south on you, and you don't want to take on a house that's subject to that needs a lot of work, because if you put a lot of your own money into it,
you could lose it.
You could still lose it, because that guy could, or that girl could go back and say, okay, well, I need to file bankruptcy. My house is still in my credit, and there you go, it's gone.
Right.
And meanwhile, you've got it. owner financed out to somebody else or rented, and in the meantime trying to get it, making it cash flow and paying that payment, and then all of a sudden you get notice that they're taking it back anyway.
True. All right, Alan, we're getting to the time here. Let's go over what books have really motivated you that you've read. I know you're a celebrity with Mike Butler. No, you don't read?
I don't read a lot.
Well, you buy a lot of courses.
I do a lot of courses, and
How did they get into your? Anyway,
I got some on my iPod, but
is there anything that has ever touched out to you besides the Savvy Landlord book? No, but no, but what? Anything that ring a bell? I'm glad this is live when we're not going to edit this. All right. Well, how about advice?
The E-Myth everybody talks about.
Yes.
There's some good books out there.
By Michael Gerber out there. E-Myth. If you want to run a business successfully and have systems in place, read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Good call.
And there's I can, if I had time, I could probably come up with a dozen more.
Oh, that's fine.
But my motivation was I just lost my job. I thought I had the most secure job in the world. I was working on a high demand asset when we were about to go to war with Iraq, and then all of a sudden,
boom!
I'm medically discharged from the Air Force because I hurt my back, and that was kind of a
upside down turvy.
Well, and I had the GI Bill, and I'm thinking, I don't really want to spend 4 years and go back to college. I want to work for myself. College doesn't really teach you that. Some of them do, I guess, but.
That's cool.
I said, real estate, I've always known it was the thing to do. I can remember the first time I went back home after I joined the military, I cleaned out my bedroom, and I must have found Carlton Sheets' phone number 100 times written down on little pieces of paper all over the place. It was funny.
That's surreal.
And then now I'm actually doing it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Back in the 80s, 90s.
Oh, the TV commercial. I think I ordered it as well. I can't remember. I love hearing
about
the
CDs for $300 and,
Now, how about your children? Are you going to teach them the craft of real estate, or do you see, do they have, he's only you got a 10-year-old or 12-year-old or something, and then you got almost a 4-year-old. What's your goals for them?
Well, I've got a 21-year-old daughter. She doesn't really have an interest in it. She hears the horror stories of me talking about stuff usually the most of the time, and she's seen some of what the tenants have done firsthand. She's helped me go in before and clean up property, or she's seen property and just is disgusted at how some people could treat somebody else's property that way. I said, well, that's where the patience comes in, because some people just have no respect for other people's property. They don't care. If it was their house, I can guarantee you. I lived in my house for 8 years. I still got the same carpet, and it's still fine. I take my shoes off when I walk in and put them on when I walk out.
Well, it's called respect. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of people, they just treat things differently, and that's why I'm hoping, with a better quality tenant, higher end house, I'll have less turnover and less issues. So that's my goal.
So, and then maybe you're like me in essence that, if my kids are in, they're in. If they're not, they're not. I don't really care per se. If they want to do it, they can do it. Well, if they don't, that's fine.
On that note, I actually run into a lot of investors. I ran into one the other day, had a couple of houses in the village for sale, and the guy must have been pushing 85, 90, and he said, I've had these houses for a long, long time. And I said, yeah, I know. I saw it on the county record. He paid like $20,000 for this house in the village. So, and his son was there, and his son was actually older than me, and he told the son, well, you negotiate, it's yours now. So I guess he was giving it to his son, and or for some reason or whatever, but he was selling one off to give it to his son, and I don't know.
Well, did you negotiate the deal?
No, it was actually infested with roaches real bad, and he wouldn't drop below $53,000, so I passed on it.
And it was a 2-bed, right?
2-bed. I offered him 40. So
yeah, no, the village is an interesting little dynamic over there. Okay,
they can be one up. They can be, $50,000 or $100,000 homes in there, just depending on where you're at. But I think I'd like to be able to set my son up to where, he can have a few houses down the road. Same thing with my daughter. If they are interested in it, they can, start them off with one and let them manage it and let them see what it's like. And if they want to try to deal with it, let them do it. And if not, then, at least I've got the money there to help them out if they need to. But I'd like to see them get into it
Sure.
to some extent. But
well, the lifestyle that you live, I mean, you got all this freedom. You have no job of the world. You know, you can come here to the studio and cut this. You can go look at a house. You can go home and do laundry if you need to. You can be at your kids' games. I mean, I can't think of any other job.
There's not too many things out there that let you do that.
The freedom that we have as real estate investors. All right, man. Well, this is
one point I want to make, Steve.
Sure.
The cool thing about this is I've got a lot of friends that kind of look at this and say, geez, I could never do that here. I want to go back to my hometown next summer. I'm actually looking for realtors up there now. I want to go back to my hometown next summer, and I'm going to do a stinking flip up there if it kills me. And I'm going to show them that it can still be done even up there in Maine.
I actually have a friend that has a couple houses in Midwest City.
It bugs me that people say, I can't do that
No,
here.
dude, I'm telling you, I have a friend in Midwest City that has about 4 or 5 houses in Midwest City. And he is from Maine. And he found some duplexes. You should talk to him. He found reasonably priced, like $80,000. Could have flipped them.
Wow.
The rents, I mean, I'm not sure what city he's from or any of that stuff, but he's from Maine, loves Maine, has a little accent. And he and I visited Maine, and you know the houses are just different. They're smaller and they're older homes, but still he was actually running the deal through me. This is a long time ago, and these numbers look great. They there's the only thing that's weird is the utilities are a little bit different. They have a lot of oil heaters,
right?
And they're usually on 1 meter, but you can get a multifamily there, but obviously there's rental property there, and I think there's deals anywhere. So that'd be a great challenge. You should write that down in your goals book. Say, hey, I'm going to buy a house or flip a house or even rent one out.
Right.
And, why not? What's stopping you from doing that? Nothing. You can do it. I love Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn says, as human beings, we limit ourselves, our self-belief, but like trees just keep growing. They just keep growing. They don't stop. Why, as human beings, we have to stop? I think that's a great goal, and maybe I have a goal to build a structure with my son. He's only 4 right now, but when he gets about 7 or 8, I want to build a structure, and I want him to be there every step of the way and show him this is how you build a property.
He's going to be my son's competition.
He may not be in real estate, and I really don't care, but he will see. And I haven't built the property yet. I haven't built the house, but I'm going to build the house. I don't want to build one, but I want to build one on my property, and I got some land, and I want to build a, and I think it'll be really interesting, and that he can see that, and that anything's possible if you just believe it. It can be. All right. So, can anyone out there in the world of real estate contact Mr. Alan Moore? Is that cool? You want to give out maybe one of your multiple phone numbers that you have from all over, or you could do your email. You never know. Someone, I don't think it might spam, but I've had some good stories. People that are on the radio show have connected with other real estate investors. I thought that was pretty gnarly. That one guy called some other guy locally, and they connected. They had breakfast together. So I know you got a gangster reputation out there.
You can send me an email at allen@buyitquick.com. That's ALLEN at BUYIT and KWIK.com. Quick is KWIK. So
cool.
You can send me an email and I can respond to that.
Get on your buyer's list.
Sure.
We already have all those investors gobbling up those deals. Isn't it crazy right now? The market is so hot.
Oh, it's
just
great.
Retarded. I mean, it frustrates me as an investor trying to buy.
There's a lot of competition out there here locally, but what I love about the real estate game is it gets better as time goes on. I mean, you've got these properties already acquired. You're paying them down. The value's going up. By the time you retire, you're making more money by the time you retire than you are now.
Yeah, that's Robert Elder said.
And how many people can do that?
Houses double in 15 years.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
And, people, my friends are like, well, I'll do it when I retire. I'm like, no, you got to do it now where you've got the job and you can get the loan. Get a few houses now.
Yeah, don't quit your job.
If you just had 2 houses bought and paid for by the time you retired, how much more would that add to your retirement? I mean, most people are paycheck to paycheck on their retirement. If you had 2 houses free and clear by the time you retired, life is great.
Yeah.
And what if you had 20 or 30 or...
And your tax bracket would be
50,
great too.
50 or 60.
All right. Man, we can go all day long with Alan Moore. I appreciate your time, bud. And
anytime.
Keep killing it out there, and if you have any deals that you don't want to sell for $5,000 more, we run into each other all the time. I remember the house over in my neighborhood. You tried to sell me that green one on 44th and Prospect, but it wasn't for you. You were working for somebody else out of state, and you had a bunch of REOs or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, 45. You lost your. That's not my price. Shoot me a price. That's what you always say to me. Shoot me a price. I just want to choke you and say, well, what do you want? Because let's get it done. But anyway, Alan's been great. He's been an inspiration to me, and hopefully he's an inspiration to you. Remember that email address. Do it one more time.
Alan@buyitquick.com.
All right.
Quick is KWIK.
Hit him up and encourage him. Ask a question about Section 8. He loves Section 8.
Shut up.
Anyway, if you had a good time, let us know. You could text 545454, the word ASK, ask a question, or ask Alan. I'll forward it to him. Other than that, check out our other people that we have graciously interviewed on our radio show at SavvyRadioshow.com. Be safe, be well, and go buy a crib.